You're listening to episode 113 of The Secular Buddhist. Welcome to The Secular Buddhist. I'm Ted Meissner. The Secular Buddhist is the official podcast of the Secular Buddhist Association, a grassroots-driven effort to answer the needs of secular teaching and practice for contemporary society. The podcast has interviews and roundtable discussions pertaining to engaged Buddhist training and practice, and the SBA website has show notes for each episode along with resource materials. Though the podcast focuses on core practice from a secular viewpoint, more traditional teachings are welcome and openly discussed. Our friend Lawrence Levy from episode 12 joins us again to speak about new offerings at Juniper and to offer another perspective about the potential value of lineage. Lately, we've had a great deal of discussion on the concept of lineage. Some of us welcome the rich tradition and consistency that lineage may bring, while others of us are skeptical of certain aspects of lineage transmission and the on-the-ground practices. Wherever we find ourselves on that scale, in our contemporary culture we are questioning with confidence, and our challenge, in the words of George Eliot, is to keep what is worth keeping and with a breath of comfort, blow the rest away. Today, we not only get to hear from another important voice in this ongoing discussion, but greet an old friend and hear about new ways one of the contemporary organizations is continuing to grow and help others. Born in London, England, Lawrence Levy moved to the United States as a teenager. He studied business at Indiana University and law at Harvard Law School. A successful career in law and the high-technology industry culminated at Pixar Animation Studios, where he was chief financial officer and a board member. For the past 10 years, Lawrence has been studying, training in, researching, and writing about Buddhist methods and philosophy. Lawrence leads Juniper's development work, is the principal writer of Juniper's written content, and lectures on Buddhist training for modern life. Lawrence lives in Palo Alto, California with his wife Hillary, also one of Juniper's founders. Juniper's services are divided into two branches, Juniper School and Juniper Clinic. Juniper School is for those wishing to learn meditation and Buddhist training. Its offerings include classes, retreats, individual guidance, and written content. Juniper Clinic is for those undergoing physical, emotional, and other challenges. It offers integrative care services from the Buddhist healing tradition, including end-of-life services. So, sit back, relax, and have a nice Green Dragon Herbal Mint. And our guest today is Lawrence Levy of Juniper. Lawrence, thanks for being here again.
You're welcome, Ted. It's nice to be with you.
It's very glad to see you once more. I have the discussions on the podcast when I do interviews, and I do tell some people, I'd really like to talk to you again and see how things have been going. And we're doing it, and I was quite sincere about that, so I am very glad to see you here.
Great, so am I.
So one of the things that is the reason we're talking today is recently Tricycle Magazine did an interview piece with you about Juniper Path and what it is that you're doing. And interestingly enough, I had already posted a link to that on the Secular Buddhist Facebook page. And a few days later, you sent me a link and said, by the way, we have this on Tricycle. I said, yep, way ahead of you, and let's get together. So I'm glad you're here. Start us out a little bit by reviewing for people who may not have heard the earlier episode, a little bit about your background and a little bit of the background of Juniper.
Oh, certainly. So my background began quite far away from what I'm doing now, I would say that. But I had a career out here in Silicon Valley. I started out as a lawyer doing technology transactions with big companies out here when the technology industry was taking off in the 80s. And then I steadily moved from that into business. And I ended up as a chief financial officer and executive vice president of some startups out here. And the most recent one of those was Pixar Animation Studios, the
Little
film
tiny company,
company.
you might have heard of them.
Yeah, you might have heard of them, but when I was funny enough, when I joined Pixar, it was sort of the much around 1994 when actually a few people had heard of them, and Toy Story was kind of the figment in Pixar's imagination almost. And so I was kind of the business person on the scene as we were shaping and growing Pixar into what became an independent animation film company, and so. That's what I was doing during the 1990s, and that was all wonderful. It was, I look back at it, and it was all an amazing experience. But I also had this kind of other pulse within me. I had always been interested in what I would call Eastern philosophy, and felt that it had a tremendous dimension to offer to life. And I was kind of reading about it in the closet, if you will, and I felt that there was something there. It was a strong, a deep sort of pulse within me. And I got to a point around the year 2000, and I kind of said to myself, I have an opportunity now to take a sabbatical and really go deeply into something that is of enormous personal interest to me. You could think of it as my movie, if you like. That was what I was really, that's what made my heart beat, so to speak. And so I did that. I took a couple of years off. I stayed associated with Pixar on their board until the company was sold to Disney. But that gave me an opportunity to explore this dimension very deeply. And that turned into a sort of whole nother journey of life. Which has occupied me for the last 10 years. And I would say that really got going after a year or so when I met Segu Rinpoche, who's one of the 5 Juniper founders. And Segu Rinpoche has now been my teacher for the last 10 years, and it is working with him and learning from him that has given shape to what sort of evolved into Juniper. Juniper started around 2003 really, when myself and a couple of other students of Rinpoche's who are now sort of the Juniper founders, there are 5 of us all together, we sort of kept asking, does it have to be this inaccessible? Mm-hmm. Does it have to be this difficult? We felt that it wasn't that, we felt that it was okay for the path itself, the path of inner development, the path of Buddhist training. It's okay for that to challenge us and for that to be difficult. But it just seemed that there were roadblocks being thrown in our way that didn't have to be there. And that had to do with all of the cultural sort of trimmings around it. And Rinpoche was incredibly open to exploring this. I think, as you may know, he was a student and an extremely maybe close disciple of Kyabje Lati Rinpoche, who was one of the luminary Tibetan Buddhist masters of the last generation. He died a couple of years ago, actually. But Rinpoche was extremely close to him and many other Tibetan masters for over 25 years, shuttling back and forth to the monastery in India and learning and receiving from them all of their teachings and transmissions. But he understood himself, and I think from them as well, that his work was in the West. And when we all got together, we said, look, let's get together for a month, basically a working retreat for a month, and we'll fill a room with whiteboards, and we'll put up the scope of this challenge. What is it that would make this path accessible in the West? What would it take? And so we did that for a month in the January of 2003. 5 of us sat in a room. We filled it with whiteboards, and we filled up those whiteboards by examining what are the differences between East and West. how has the Buddhist teachings encountered the West over the last 30 years? What have the problems been? Where are those problems culturally based, or where are they based in other things? And at the end of that time period, we had what I would call a blueprint for what it would take to make this work. And I have to tell you, when I saw the scope of that blueprint as a Silicon Valley startup guy, kind of like used to looking at, business plans that might take, 4, 5, 8 years, something like that. I scratched my head and I looked at that and said, this is going to take 500 years.
Yeah.
and Rinpoche said, no, it's not. It'll only take 100. So, put one foot in front of the other and keep walking. And he is a man of immense vision, and I think that even if it was 100 years in the scheme of things, that would be fine. And that was the beginning of Juniper. And we have steadily marched forward on the findings that happened there in 2003, every day since. For the 5 of us, it's been a full-time endeavor. It's been a privilege to work on this project. And it took time, but slowly but surely, the pieces of it came together. And then we launched the website in 2009, and we've started doing, more teaching and holding classes, and there are individuals that follow us. We have a lot more content up now on our website. And then the tricycle interview and the discussion online is really a sort of a milestone for us. We're extremely happy with it because, it is a very sort of accurate representation of everything we stand for and everything that we think Buddhist training can be in modern culture and modern civilization. And it was interesting. We didn't go seeking them out. James Shaheen, who's the editor of Tricycle, who you probably know, who's a wonderful guy, and he came to us, about a year ago, and he said, I need to find out about you guys. He said, I've read everything you've done, and I'm fascinated by this. This is what you're doing is really important. And, I have to, hand it to him. He visited us several times over the course of the past year. He came to our classes. He came to our meditations. He sat down with each of us. He really did a lot of homework. And during the course of that, we drew closer and closer. And in fact, we became really firm friends out of that. And that effort led to that interview and led to that online discussion. And we just had a tremendous response from it, and individuals seem to sort of enjoy and appreciate the work. And while people will ask questions on there, they don't necessarily understand or agree, with everything that we say and do, but they all seem to be grateful for it. And I'd say probably the most frequent response we have is thank you. And then we have a discussion, and then we explain it about particular issues. You can see on this online discussion, there's all kinds of issues that we talk about on there. Enlightenment, the meaning of the Buddha, deity yoga, whether the path should be simple or whether the path should be complicated. What is teacher relationships about? We really received all the hard questions. Reincarnation and all of that, and we were able to articulate answers to that in a written form on there. So that has been we've been really happy with that.
Yeah, for folks who are listening, by the way, I do plan to have a link to that article on the episode page for this episode. And one of the wonderful functionalities that Tricycle's online offering has is that there are really very good active discussions on this. And as Lawrence is saying, they're able to address a lot of the questions that people put in directly that are very challenging sometimes for a contemporary Western audience. Lawrence, you were talking about James Shaheen, who's the publisher of Tricycle, and he is very passionate about this. You see it in Tricycle of how Westerners engage with the practice, with the teaching and practice. And he's very careful, and he's developed that good and strong relationship with you, which led to this. One of the questions that was on there that I'd like you to chat about a little bit, because you've addressed it online, and I know it's one of the things that comes up frequently. We get this question on our discussion boards for the Secular Buddhist Association, is the idea of a lineage and having a teacher. And people tend to come to us and say, boy, it seems like that's a traditional thing and there wouldn't be any value on it. And I always say, actually, no, I find great value in having teachers. I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about your views on that and the potential values of lineage, even for contemporary audiences who might at first be a little averse to that.
Yeah, I'd be happy to talk about that. Let me put it in context maybe. When we think of what Juniper stands for, we think of two dimensions to what Juniper is. One dimension is the lineage. And what the lineage stands for is the kind of, and it's the harder part to put words around. But what it stands for is that transformational force that comes from a school or a person or a lineage that is delivering teachings or information or content. It's that idea of energy or the life force behind what we do. It's where much of the transformational capacity comes from. And so that is the part that the lineage represents. In other words, the lineage part says something like, it isn't only about understanding the content. The intellectual delivery of the content, which I'll get to in a minute, is important, but it's not only about that. It's also about who and how you get that content from. And the charisma and the transformational capacity behind that. In some ways, that is, one might say that's even more important. Because if I look at my own experience of the last 10 years, I could say, well, I've had the privilege to spend a lot of time going deeply into understanding, a body of teachings, Buddhist teachings, that I consider to be, some of the most remarkable teachings that exist for the benefit of people. Not only have I been able to go deeply into that, I've also been able to sort of craft, words and writing around that and help to create the way that Juniper communicates those ideas. And that's all fantastic. But it isn't the source of my greatest benefit of what I've done for the last 10 years. My greatest benefit has come from my relationship with Rinpoche. And that goes beyond the words on any page. It goes beyond the idea of Buddhist or not Buddhist or Juniper or anything we want to call it. Because in Rinpoche is a person who knows me better than I know myself, who knows when to push me and knows when to hold back, who treats me and everyone else, obviously, with complete dignity and respect, and who listens patiently as I try to work this out for myself. Because the application of these ideas, the Four Noble Truths or the Buddhist ideas, or Juniper calls it awakening the mind, whatever we want to call it, the application of these things it's much easier to understand them intellectually than it is to really apply and embody them in our lives. And that embodiment in my life, that's because of Rinpoche. And so what word do we put around that kind of relationship or that kind of transmission, if you will? What word do we put around that? Well, we use the word lineage.
Right.
And because the lineage is the holder of that transformational force. It's like the fuel in the gas tank. Now, that's the lineage part. I said there were the two aspects to Juniper. So now I go to the second part, which I would call the aesthetic, the aesthetic of Juniper. And that has a few components to it. One is the look and feel of it. When you experience something that Juniper is offering, like our website, it has a very specific look and feel. It's very simple. We try to make it simple, elegant, not cluttered, not noisy, really an antidote to kind of all the noise out there. Then there's a language to what we do. That's the second part of the aesthetic, if you will. If you read our language, if you read our articles and papers, there's a language to it. First of all, it's in English, so that's clear. But it's also crafted in a certain way, and that's part of our aesthetic. And thirdly, there's a structure to what we do. The Awakening the Mind is a blueprint for the Buddhist path, and we have a particular structure in there. We call it the 4 building blocks, which are meditation, balancing emotions, cultivating compassion, and developing wisdom. We hang all of the teachings on those 4 building blocks. So that comprises the aesthetic, our look and feel, the language we use, and the structure. But the fuel that empowers that aesthetic is the lineage. And it's the bringing together of those 2 things that Juniper stands for. And the reason why this takes us time is not necessarily because it takes a long time to craft the words and the language, although that does take a long time. It's because the hallmark of what will make Juniper ultimately have an impact on the world is our capacity to hold that energy as a lineage, because it can't stay with Rinpoche. He is the holder of it. He received it through his path and journey. He is now delivering it to the path, into the path and journey of those associated and learning this path through Juniper. And that process takes time. There isn't sort of a quick, I wish there was, like a magic wand or something like that, and wham, you've got the juice kind of a thing. But it takes time to cultivate that, and it takes time, and it takes practice, and it takes working with a teacher like Rinpoche. And so I hope that explains a little bit the lineage side. It's the more subtle side of it. It's not the side I can sort of point to you and say, oh, look, there's the lineage, and there's a photo or a statue or an image. It's kind of it's more invisible than that. But bringing that to our culture, our world, and linking it with an aesthetic and that makes this accessible to us by way of structure, language, and the like is what Juniper's all about.
And that's presented very well, as you have just done on the site itself, that I want to express a deep admiration for how well you have crafted that verbal message that you have online on the site and in the articles that you have there. And I've seen over the past year how much that this has progressed and grown. What I'd like you to do is tell us about some of the areas of growth that people can see online there. For example, I'm not sure, maybe you did last time we talked about it. You have the Juniper School and the Juniper Clinic. I'm not sure if that was as well-rounded as it is now. Could you tell us some about that and some of the other offerings?
Absolutely, and your memory serves you well, because that sort of division probably wasn't there the last time we talked. We added that last year, and it does represent well some of the progress that we've made. So, but in we made sort of progress on several fronts. So one is we're starting to do more classes and teaching now, and so we have meditations in our Redwood City, California meditation hall every Tuesday evening and every first and third Saturday of the month. We've now started to offer a one-day course on meditation for modern life, and we offered that last year. We're going to be offering that this year, probably more than once. Last year we offered a 3-day retreat, which was in Menlo Park, California. It was wonderful. People came in from all over, and it was really great. And we're going to do that again this September. So if you keep an eye on our website, soon you'll see us announce a date in the second or third week of September for another 3-day retreat, which is a great opportunity for individuals to come who are not local. So we're offering more in that dimension. We put up quite a bit more content in the last year. There are pieces on there that probably weren't there before, like learning to meditate, and a piece called The 3 Moments, which is a wonderful short piece on the whole of the insight teachings. And there's a number of new articles on there. One that you might like in particular is called A Path Beyond Theism and Atheism, which is based on a talk that we gave. And so that's all new. And I should add, before I get to the clinic, the number one request we get is from individuals who are not local who would like to hear more from us. And we've been examining ways to do that for quite some time in terms of figuring out where to land to offer more content to more curriculum to so people, individuals that are not local can connect with us. And we're going to be making some announcements on that, and I think in the next few weeks. So we're going to start moving out more of an online, some more online talks and teachings and courses and that kind of stuff. But another side to this work, and although the clinic school division is new on the website, it's not new in terms of what Juniper has always been doing and what Rinpoche has always been doing. Rinpoche has always applied these practices and teachings, and especially the teachings from the world of Tibetan medicine, to offer integrative care and healing work to individuals who are in some sort of illness or stress or crisis of some sort. So we divide the application of these teachings into this Juniper school, which is for individuals that are ready and want to take this on. They want to begin a meditation practice and start embracing this as a path in their lives. That's the Juniper school. The Juniper clinic is for individuals who either are going through an event of some sort, physical or emotional or psychological, whatever, and need help in that. And we bring to bear integrative care methods of applying the sort of transformational, the energy side of what we do to individuals who need that help. And so what we did in the last few months, which has been a big step for Juniper, is that we actually opened an integrative care clinic. And in Palo Alto, California, we have the Juniper Integrative Care Clinic, and it's an office, and we have hours. People make appointments, and they come, and it's this sort of thriving clinic. And Rinpoche is there applying this work to people who come, and people are coming with all kinds of things. We have people that are experiencing pain or going through cancer treatment or going through other types of difficulties. And what this addresses is not the medical side of it per se, but their overall capacity, vitality, energy, if you will, to combat whatever it is they're going through. And so it's a wonderful complement to medicine. We never say it's an alternative or it's something that should be a substitute for. We like working with physicians. One small example, just an anecdote, but there's a physician in San Francisco who is an oncologist, and he has sent a number of cancer patients to us. And he made an observation to us a few months ago, and he said, he doesn't know why this is, but his nurses report to him that the people who come to us seem to encounter less pain and require less pain medication. Now, I can't make that as a scientific claim that we've proven with double-blind studies and all that. It's purely an anecdote. But I hear this. I hear that kind of thing, with some regularity. At some point, we'd like to do the studies as well. But
I've got some resources for you. Those studies have been done,
uh,
and well, I'll get you some references on that because I've interviewed neurologists who have been studying, and they did do double-blinded studies on pain and the perception of it. Folks at Sarah Lazar's team at Mass General have done these, and they actually do the brain scans to show here's the difference. And they're reporting that, well, yes, I still have that sensation, but I'm not suffering from it as much. And it's completely different areas of the brain that light up after they've been through a training program on particular meditation techniques. And I suspect that's a very similar, if not the same thing, to the kinds of things that you're seeing with your anecdote and what you're reporting here.
that I would say so. We would love to see those studies as well. We're familiar with some, but we'd love to see whatever you have.
Yeah, I'd be glad to get that to you. And something else that you've brought up that I really want to again express my sincerest appreciation for is that you said and made no bones about it. You were very clear that this is not an alternative medicine. This is not a replacement for seeing the doctor and getting your cancer treated through medical means. This is an adjunct to help people in an overall more comprehensive way of dealing with the situation of having cancer. And as someone who has been through cancer and as a meditator, thank you very much, because that sort of resilience and equanimity that one gains through the practice, like the kinds of programs that you have at Juniper and the ones you've been developing, especially over the past year, are so incredibly beneficial to one's peace of mind that is a big, big plus that can only help the medical treatment of the biological problem of the disease.
Absolutely. I think you stated it very well, and that's exactly the kinds of things that we hear.
Excellent. Excellent. So in the coming year, as Juniper and your works continue to grow, what are some things that you would like to see happen over the next year or couple of years that you're excited about seeing, the potential for growing?
Well, I would say a couple of things. So I'm excited to see the continued growth of what we've started. And so we're, in a way, it's still embryonic. And so the teachings that we're doing and the clinic work is the official opening of the clinic has only been open for several months. So the continued success and growth of what we're doing, but the reason that I'm excited about that is because it opens the door for more people to engage with us, and we're really interested in that. We're really interested in, because it's like we feel that one of the things we're trying to say is that it's time for us to take this incredible historic, tradition and make it ours. To say that it's ours, and that when we look at whether it's Tibetan or Indian or wherever we look, we can look back at that with tremendous, respect and reverence. But what we're creating here is something that we want to feel ownership for, the connection to the past, but ownership because this is our world. This is where we are, and so the best thing, is as people connect with us, they start to kind of get that feeling too. And that's the feeling that we want to generate, that this school, this lineage, this work is something that I am part of. I feel proud of this. And so I look forward to, more individuals joining us with that spirit. And the other thing I look forward to is working out this sort of ability to reach people at a distance.
Yeah.
And,
yes.
And I've just been looking at that, and it's although there's obviously a whole world of it. So the world is unbelievably connected through all these technologies, but using those technologies in a way that's kind of simple and elegant and accessible, that's not so easy.
Yes, right. Yeah, exactly. As technologists, you and I both are aware of that.
And so I look forward to us doing that, and I think we'll do that. I think we will start to do that, and we'll start at the beginning, and then it will grow from there. But I look forward to Juniper learning, how to use all this technology to reach people anywhere in the world that might be interested in what we're doing in a simple and elegant and accessible way without cluttering up everything, which is so easy to do.
Yeah, very much so. I appreciate the efforts that you've been doing. For folks who are listening to the podcast, our guest today has been Lawrence Levy, and the website is www.juniperpath.org. Lawrence, thank you so much for being here. It's wonderful talking with you again.
Yeah, it's a pleasure, Ted. Thank you.
Thanks for listening. If you'd like to learn more about something you've heard in today's podcast, please come visit the SBA website at secularbuddhism.org, and you'll find an entire webpage devoted to this and every episode. Discussion about this episode can be found on the episode page itself, along with show notes. The music for The Secular Buddhist is used by permission from John Kaizen Neptune's CD, Steps in Time. Additional music is provided courtesy of Monty Levinson of Taihei Shakuhachi and Rodrigo Rodriguez. Their websites are also linked on the SBA site on the About Podcast Music page. Until next time, remember, every moment you have a choice. Make it the best you can. See you next time on The Secular Buddhist.